Comprehensibility is the second component on the intelligibility continuum proposed by Smith. Intelligibility involves being able to identify or recognize sounds and assign different categories to those sounds as different kinds of words. Whereas comprehensibility involves assigning of meaning to these sounds or words that one is able to recognize in the intelligibility part or component of the intelligibility continuum. It does not only involve being able to recognize the meanings of different words, but also to be able to recognize the reference of different words. By that we mean the ability to understand the meaning that a particular word assumes in a particular context. Let's take a look at an example which may make this clearer. Suppose somebody hears this word table and is able to understand or recognize the sounds involved in pronouncing the word table. And knowing those sounds, the person is able to recognize the word as table because he or she knows the sounds. However, the word table has different meanings in different contexts. One is a common meaning, a piece of furniture. Then we also use sentences like invite guests of the committee to the table. Here the meaning of the word table is completely different from the meaning it has as a piece of furniture. Here it means to invite somebody to take part in a discussion, negotiation, etc. Similarly, we often talk about tabling a motion when we take part in meetings, etc. Tabling a motion means when you postpone a discussion, an idea for the time being. Then we have another common meaning of the word table. For example, insert data into cells in a table when you present facts and figures in the form of tables and rows in your, let's say, assignments or in any other document in the form of tables. So only being able to recognize the sound that you hear as table is not enough. That only involves intelligibility. But to be able to interact successfully in a language, you also need to understand the meaning a word assumes in different contexts. So the meaning, the ability to assign meaning to words and also to understand different meanings that a word assumes in different contexts. Difficulties in comprehensibility often arise when unfamiliar words creep into a conversation. And it often happens when we talk about different varieties of English. Because in different varieties of English, we have lots of locally coined words, we have nativized vocabulary, and we have borrowed lexical items which are not originally from English but are borrowed from different regional languages and also the regional language on which that particular variety is based. So interaction is hampered in this area if there is unfamiliar vocabulary in the language which a person is dealing with at a particular moment. Let's take a look at another example. This is an excerpt from a matrimonial ad from an Indian newspaper, and it is cited in Nelson and Kachru and Nelson again. Correspondents invited, preferably for mutual alliance. Now, mutual alliance has a very different connotation in the context of Indian matrimonial ads. It is a culturally significant collocation. It is extremely cultural specific, and even we Pakistanis probably will not be able to understand it, although we claim to know Indian culture and Indian language, that is Hindi, very well. It is a cultural specific collocation with respect to marriage arrangements only. It is an arrangement where A's son marries B's daughter and B's son marries A's daughter. In other words, we in our culture call it Vattasatta. So, and in an English newspaper, this idea is presented in India as mutual alliance. But a person who is not familiar with Indian culture will not be able to comprehend the meaning that this ad or the idea that this ad is trying to convey, although that particular person may be able to completely understand or be able to apprehend the word mutual alliance, the phrase mutual alliance. And despite being able to clearly understand the word mutual alliance at the sound level, will not be able to understand the meaning of the ad unless they know they're familiar with the Indian culture. So, comprehensibility is a more advanced level than intelligibility, and it involves not only being able to recognize the sound of a word, etc., but also being able to understand the meaning that the word conveys, and that also in different contexts.